The first message came in on a Tuesday night in June at 9:41. Don't forget the thing Thursday. I'm not reminding you again. I read it twice. I'd had the number about 3 weeks, and I typed back the thing anybody types. I think you have the wrong number. 3 dots. They came up and went away, and came up again, and I stood in the kitchen of a rented duplex in Dayton, Ohio, holding a phone and watching a stranger decide what to say to me. Then it came through. I know. 2 words. I want you to sit with that for a second, because I had to. Not sorry, not oh no, my mistake. I know. I typed, then why are you texting it? And nothing came back that night. Nothing came back the next day either. At 11 o'clock on Thursday, the Thursday, whatever it was, my phone lit up on the arm of the couch. Because it's still his number until somebody makes me stop. My name is Owen Pratt. I'm 47. I manage a self-storage facility off Needmore Road, 140 units, a gravel lot, and an office with a space heater and a window that looks at a fence. It is the correct job for me. I want to be honest about that. I have spent most of my life being the person who doesn't say the thing, and there is no profession on earth better suited to a man like that than sitting alone in a small building looking after other people's boxes. 4 months later, I said the hardest thing I have ever said in my life to a woman I had never met, in a text message, at 2 in the morning. But first she told me who the number belonged to. His name was Danny. She sent it in pieces, over about a week, the way people do when they're not sure they want to be talking at all. Danny Renner. 38 years old, he pulled into a gas station on the 14th of February, put his card in the pump, and had an aortic dissection standing at the driver's door of his own truck. He was gone before the ambulance turned onto the road. There had been nothing wrong with him. There had been no warning at all. He'd had a physical in November and passed everything. Her name was Casey. She was 35. She'd kept paying his phone bill for 2 months, and then she couldn't justify it, and she canceled it in April. And the carrier held the number for a while, and then in June they gave it to a man at a kiosk in a strip mall who needed a new line for a new job. That was me. I found out because I sent one, she wrote, in May, just to send it, and it bounced. And then in June I sent another one and it didn't bounce, and I sat on my kitchen floor for about an hour. I asked her the obvious question. I asked if she thought he was reading them, and she wrote back, and I've kept this one, I can quote it exactly. I'm a hospital scheduler with a mortgage and a functioning brain. I know exactly where my husband is. I put him there. I'm not confused about it. I just haven't figured out how to stop yet, and now there's a person on the other end, and I don't know what that makes me. I typed 4 different replies to that and deleted all 4. What I finally sent was, you can keep going if you want. And that is the sentence that started the next 4 months. If you're still with me, and I know this is the part where people decide whether they want the rest, do me one favor and hit subscribe. Because about halfway through those 4 months, she sent me something she had never told a living soul, and I have thought about what I did with it every day since. I'd rather tell that to people who stayed. Now, 4 months. Here's what it actually looked like. It wasn't a conversation. I need you to understand that, because everybody assumes it was. For the first 10 weeks I said almost nothing, maybe 6 replies in 10 weeks, and all of them 1 line long. She sent between 2 and 9 messages a day. Ordinary things mostly. That's what took the top of my head off. It was never dramatic. Your mother called. I told her the gutters are fine. They put a Chipotle where the Sears was. I hate the sound the dishwasher makes now. You'd know what it is. Chris got engaged, to the one you didn't like. I found a receipt in your work coat. 2 coffees. Who was the second one for? That came out wrong. I know who it was for. It was for Marty. I just wanted to ask you something and have it be about nothing. 300 and some of those before the end of July. I'd get home from the storage office at 7, make something, and sit there, and at some point in the evening my phone would go, and it would be a woman in a house 11 miles away telling a dead man that the fence guy came. And I read every single one of them. I want to be clear that I knew this was wrong. I didn't discover that at the end. I knew in week 2. There was a person pouring her whole interior life into a phone, and there was a stranger at the other end, reading it with his dinner, and no version of that is clean. So why didn't I stop it? I'm going to answer that properly, because I don't know is a lie, and I've done enough of those. My father died when I was 31. Emphysema, 11 months, all of it at home. I sat with him more than my brother did, and my brother is the one who fell apart at the service, and I gave the eulogy, and I stood up in front of 90 people in a church in Springfield, and spoke for 6 minutes, and said absolutely nothing true. I talked about his work ethic. I talked about a fishing trip in 1994. I said he was a good man, which he mostly was, and I did not say the one thing I actually had, which was that he told me twice in the last month that he was frightened, and I changed the subject both times, and I would give anything to go back and just sit there and let him be frightened at me. I've never told anybody that either. 16 years. So when a woman I'd never met started sending the true version of her life into what she thought was empty air, I recognized it. Not the grief. The other thing. The thing where you finally get somewhere the words can come out because nobody's standing there to hear them. I didn't stop it because I have never once managed to do what she was doing, and I wanted to watch somebody who could. That's not a good reason. It's just the real one. And then came the 14th of August. She wrote at 1:10 in the morning, "I need to say something, and this is the only place it can go." And then nothing for 11 minutes. I watched the dots come and go 4 times. Then, 3 days before you died, I told you I wanted to separate. I said it in the driveway. You said, "Okay, let's talk Sunday," and you went to work. We never talked Sunday. Everyone at the funeral kept telling me how much you loved me, and I stood there and let them say it. I have never told one person, not my sister, not the grief group. Nobody knows that the last real thing I ever said to my husband was that I wanted out. So now you know, or nobody knows. I can't tell anymore. I sat on the edge of my bed at 1:30 in the morning holding a confession that had been intended for a dead man, and I understood, completely, for the first time, the size of what I had let happen. She thought she was speaking into an empty room. There was a man in the room. I did nothing for 2 more months. I want to say that plainly and not dress it up, because that is the part I'd change. 2 months. September, October. She kept writing. The messages after August were different. Softer, more finished. Like somebody putting things down instead of carrying them. She started saying she was sleeping better. She sold his truck in September, and told him about it in 4 messages, and apologized in 3 of them. And every day I didn't say anything. The thing got heavier. Here's what finally did it. On the 19th of October she wrote, "I think I'm going to stop soon. Not today, but soon. It's starting to feel like I'm the only one keeping it going, and I think that means something." And I realized she was going to walk away from 4 months of the most honest thing she had ever done, believing every word of it had gone nowhere. And that, not the confession, not the guilt, that is what got me off the couch. I typed it at 2:10 in the morning on the 20th of October, and I sent it before I could read it back. "Casey, I'm not him. I never was. I'm the man who got the number in June, and I have read every message you have sent since then, including the one from August the 14th. I should have told you months ago, and I have no defense for why I didn't. But I couldn't let you stop believing they went somewhere. They went somewhere. I got all of them." Then I put the phone face down on the counter and stood in my kitchen for about 40 minutes. Nothing came. Nothing came for 11 days. On the 31st of October, at 4 in the afternoon, my phone went off in the storage office, and I nearly dropped it. "Which ones did you read?" I typed, "All of them." Nothing for 6 minutes. "The August one." Yes. Nothing for 19 minutes. That was the longest 19 minutes I have had in my adult life, and I have sat in a hospital corridor. Then, "Did you tell anybody?" "No, and I won't. Ever." And then, after a while, "Okay." Just that. Okay. 2 days later. "I'm not angry. I want to be. I've been trying since Tuesday, and it won't start." And then, on the 4th of November, there's a diner on Wagner Ford Road. Saturday, 10 a.m. I want to see the face of the person who knows. She was already in the booth when I got there. I want to tell you it was some big cinematic thing. It wasn't. She looked up and she looked exactly like a person who has been handling something heavy alone for a long time. That particular tiredness that sits under the eyes and doesn't come out with sleep. She said, "You're older than I pictured." I said, "You're calmer than I pictured." And she said, "Give it 10 minutes. We were in that booth for 4 hours. She asked me why I hadn't blocked the number in June, and I told her the truth, which is that I'd never in my life been given something real by accident, and I didn't know how to throw it away. She asked me why I hadn't spoken in August, and I told her the truth about that too, which is worse. I was afraid that the second I said anything, she'd stop, and I'd go back to a duplex where nothing happened. She didn't let me off for that. Good. I didn't want her to. And near the end, she said the thing I think about most. She said, "For 4 months I thought I was shouting into a hole in the ground. Do you understand what it does to a person to find out somebody was down there the whole time listening?" I said I didn't. She said, "Neither do I yet." But it isn't nothing. That was a year and a half ago. It has not been simple, and I'm not going to pretend it has. She spent a lot of last spring in a chair in an office on Far Hills Avenue, working through the fact that the first honest conversation of her adult life happened with a stranger who was reading her mail. We didn't rush anything. There was nothing to rush toward. For about 7 months we were two people who had dinner and did not touch each other, and I have never been more comfortable in my life. She told her sister about the August thing in March. I drove her there and waited in the car. She came out after 2 hours and got in and didn't say anything for about a mile, and then she said, she already knew, and then she laughed until she cried, which is a thing I have since learned she does. Danny's number is still my number. She asked me once if I wanted to change it, and I said no, and she didn't ask why, because she knew. And on the 14th of February this year, the anniversary, the gas station, all of it, I was at the storage office at 9:40 at night doing the lock check, and my phone went off in my coat pocket. Don't forget the thing Thursday, I'm not reminding you again. Same words. The exact same words. To the letter. She'd gone back and found the message and copied it out. I stood in a gravel lot in the cold, and I read it about 9 times. And then I did the one thing I've learned to do in the last year and a half, which is answer. I typed, "I won't forget, I'm here." And she wrote back, "I know." One last thing. I let it go for 4 months. 10 weeks of silence, and then 2 more months after she told me the worst thing in her life, and every single day of that I told myself I was protecting her, when what I was actually doing was protecting the only interesting thing that had ever happened to me. Some people tell me I did the kind thing, that if I'd spoken up in June, she'd have deleted the number and gone back to carrying all of it by herself, and she'd never have written the August message at all. Other people tell me that's a very convenient story for a man who read a stranger's mail for 4 months. So settle it for me in the comments, because I never have. Should I have told her in June? Or was the silence the only thing that let her finally say it? And if you sat through all of that with me, subscribe. There's a new one every week, and every single one is about somebody who had one sentence they couldn't say out loud, and what it cost them to finally say it. Thanks for sitting with me.